You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
I'm Stephen Cabral, board-certified naturopathic doctor. Thank you for joining me today on our first weekend house call. This is where we answer our community's questions each and every weekend. We do Saturdays, we do Sundays. I usually get to about 6 to 8 questions. Always one of my favorite times of the week to try to give back as much as I can to make sure that those people who have not gotten answers to their health questions or their loved ones' health questions, get that time. I just think that that's the way to start, is to start to get the education for what you need to do next, right? So on these house calls, it's which lab should I run? What am I not seeing? What should I look into for more research? What type of doctor should I go to? How to use the right nutritional supplement? Anything like that. Like anything is fair game. And I also answer questions for health coaches out there about getting the right certification or the right methodology of study or what their niche should be. Any of those things, it's all fair game. We love it all. And right now, I would say we're about 4 weeks behind on getting to your question. So that's why I'm really trying to redirect people as well. I love answering your questions in person or over this podcast. But to get faster answers, like not having to wait a month, 3 to 4 weeks, definitely, is to go to cabralsupportgroup.com. It's our Facebook group. If you have a Facebook account, like most people do, there's now like 1.5 billion people who have one. Simply ask to join the group. You will be let right in, and we would love to be able to answer your questions there. My health coaches are answering questions there each and every day. Caitlin, Julia, they do an amazing job. And the truth is that they're asking me if they don't have the answer to that question. Let's say it's the first time it's ever come up. Then I answer your question, and then they respond on the Facebook group. So, really, we're doing our best to really get this down to a science, and we're trying to help as many people as possible. That's what it's all about. Each and every one of us, Julia, Caitlin, myself, everyone else on the team, Mark, we all got into this because we've dealt with our own health issues. We've done it with our own body-based issues. And now we're trying to help take other people to where we were at one time, to the other side, to the side where you have the body that you want. You're not obsessing over it, but you have that lean physique that you want, that you feel good about, and that you have the health that you want so that when you wake up in the morning, you feel energized. When you wake up, you're ambitious. You want to do something with your life. You want to grow. You want to feel fulfilled. So that's exciting to us, and we're always happy to help. Now, let's get into today's first house call. Okay, the first question is coming in from Anonymous. And again, all show notes today will be at stephencabral.com/729. And if I mentioned something from a previous show, just go to stephencabral.com/podcasts. You'll be able to see all of the previous 728 shows before today, which is 729. Okay, so Anonymous is asking, Dr. Cabral, thank you so much for taking the time to answer all of your community's questions. My husband has a strong odor to his feet to the point where no spray, no powder can help. He wears work boots all day and does construction in Boston. Oh, so a Boston native like myself. That's great. He's in boots for probably close to 12 hours. We go through buying him new boots all the time because they are honestly putrid. We have a boot warmer that is supposed to help, but it will knock you on your tush if you walk in the basement. His diet is okay. It could be a lot better. Exercise is basically just his work. He wants to start eating better and working out. What could be the cause of this terrible smell coming from his feet? Sincerely, a wife who's tired of throwing away socks and buying expensive work boots all the time. Anonymous, I understand where you're coming from. Totally get it, and we can help with this. Okay, so usually when literally armpits or feet or body odor becomes that intense, there's a bacterial or fungal overgrowth. And when these things hit the air, this bacteria starts to become odorous and smell. So what we have is the bacteria coming or is on the feet, and then it gets into the socks, and then it gets into the shoes. And work boots are usually leather or some type of synthetic-based leather. And then that gets into the actual fabric of the boot. And that's hard to get rid of. So what we need to do for those boots just temporarily is get some essential oils in there that are actually antimicrobial and antifungal. A nice mixture between a tea tree oil and a lavender would be great. You could do a spray, essential oil spray, that will help too. And putting some baking soda in those boots as well will certainly help to absorb some of the moisture, which if there's less moisture, then we're not going to get as much fungal or bacterial overgrowth. Your husband can also use that baking powder in his socks and in the boots to start the day. And again, that's not a cure. That's just a temporary solution. So now anyone who has this type of odor usually has a large amount of toxicity. Now that toxicity can be yeast-based. It can be local. So it can be local to his feet, meaning that he has a localized bacterial fungal-based infection. So what can you do? Well, you can, again, put a couple drops of tea tree oil and do a foot soak. And lavender oil works great as well. So you can put Epsom salt in that as well, and you can do all other antimicrobial things as well. So here's the thing. You can have him soak his feet each night for 20 minutes to try to rid all of this bacteria. And again, tea tree oil, there's so many you can use. I just keep going back to tea tree oil because it's one of those things you should just keep in your house. And again, I don't promote essential oils, but essential oils are great. It's just there's so many people who sell essential oils. You certainly don't need to get them from me. And again, I only try to give you the things that I don't think that you're going to be able to get in an efficacious way anywhere else. So that's what we need to do. I mean, hands down, there's only one test I would really look at, and that's the organic acids test. Have him do the urine-based test, have him mail it in, get the results back, look at liver detoxification through glutathione, look at the bacterial counts, look at the yeast and fungal-based counts, see if it's not just local-based, see if this is actually a gut-based issue, and then that is becoming a fungal-based or bacterial-based on the feet. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully it gets you started in the right direction. And then, of course, after you do the organic acids test, have your husband do a 21-day Dr. Ball detox. That will get him on the path to eating well, but it will also try to pull some of those toxins right out of his body. All right. Maxine's up next. Good afternoon. I'm ready to confirm that the following products are vegan, as in no animals or animal byproducts. Activated B complex, daily activated multivitamin, daily nutritional support shake. I really just want to make sure. Thank you, Maxine. Okay, so Maxine, all of the products you just mentioned use all vegetable-based capsules, are vegan-based. However, I can tell you this, that the activated B complex and the daily activated multi, although vegan-based, are not processed in a vegan-based facility. And I just want to be totally transparent. I'm always transparent, of course, because although I try to live as close to a vegan-based lifestyle as possible, there are some things that I do compromise on. And again, I know as strict vegans, then you're not going to. And I applaud that and I agree with it and I have no problem with that. The one thing I can tell you is that the daily nutritional support shake is vegan. We can't put that on there. And the reason we can't put that on there is, again, total transparency. And that's because we produce a lot of this product. And inside of that manufacturing plant, it's GMP certified. We only use the best of the best, recycled materials, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There could be some cross-contamination. But I can tell you that there are no animal products that we use that go into those products. So again, I don't know that most companies could tell you that their products are vegan-based because they don't manufacture themselves, right? They use a manufacturer that gets all of these nutrients. So for example, the daily activated multivitamin that we have, as well as the daily nutritional support, there's over 36 different things in it. And so that means that your manufacturer, although I formulated it, it has to get it from all 30 different places. It goes into one facility. So no one can really tell you that none of this cross-contaminated with any animal-based products. So just want to, again, like I said, be transparent, and I will let you make the best decision that's right for you and your family from there. Lauren's up next. Hi, I live in New York, and I'm greatly interested in the organic acids test. I know the lab you use can't be used in New York. However, I was wondering if you can recommend any other labs or if there's any way I can get this test. Thank you. So yeah, we would love to get you this test in New York. The problem is, in terms of shipping labs through the mail, New York state law, it's a state law. It's not us, it's the state law. It's like, why don't we ship to Australia yet? Australia, everyone listening from Australia, we are going to be shipping to Australia in hopefully 4 weeks. It's not that we don't want to. Shipping to Australia literally costs us $80. Like $80. And we charge, like, just to be totally transparent again, because I always am, we lose money on every single shipping option that we put on the website. We can't ship out an item for less than $10.82. We only charge $4.95. For international, it costs us between $22 and like $50. We only charge like $19.95. Or I want to get people these products the best way I can. And Australia, I just feel bad charging $80, minimum. So what we're going to do in the future is really just base everything based on weight and just say, hey, this is what it costs, not a penny more. Most likely we'll try to charge less. And, it kind of is what it is. But I want to be able to get these products to everybody. We have the ability to do that. We don't have the ability to do shipping count on demand. And of course, like, let's say it costs $80 to ship to Australia and someone buys our month's supply of the daily nutritional support for, I believe it's like $69. It's less than $3 a day. So that we would lose money, right? We would literally, if it cost us $80, they would pay $19. The product's around $60 or so, and we would literally lose money. So we have to figure out a way around that. All right. So for New York, same deal. It's state law. It really has nothing to do with us. We'd love to get it to you. How do people work around it? Well, one is they can ship it from an address other than New York, right? So you can do that. That's certainly a possibility because we can get it to New York. You just can't ship it out of New York. Okay. The other thing is this. You work with a local functional medicine practitioner. You don't necessarily need to do it with our office. So let's say you want to work with our office. You want to work with myself or one of my health coaches. Again, like working with my health coaches, I would say pretty close to working with myself because any questions they have, they're going to bring to me. So you're going to get those same answers. So really feel very, very comfortable with maybe not having to wait to get an appointment with myself is to work with my amazing holistic health coaches. They're certified by me. I read all of your lab results and they're taking you through the program. But keep in mind, like their level of knowledge it far surpasses like almost any functional medicine doctor out there. They are just phenomenal. So you could work with the functional medicine practitioner in your state as well. And in New York, there's a lot of good functional medicine practitioners. I can't recommend anyone individually, but you can certainly check that out. All right. I know that didn't really answer your question, but you can ship from a different address other than New York, or you can find a local functional medicine doctor and run it with them in the state of New York because they can run it in-house. They just can't ship it out. All right. Luis is up next. Dr. Cabral, I'm very impressed with your breadth of knowledge and commend the stance you take on health and healing. It's courageous and standout individuals like you who will transform the healthcare and fitness industries for the better. My question pertains to the health of my 13-year-old daughter. Over the years, she has had 4 bouts of mesenteric lymphadenitis. The attacks of severe abdominal pain, sometimes accompanied by vomiting, seem to come on fairly suddenly, and the after effects can last weeks. She tested positive for gluten, casein sensitivity. However, being a teenager, she has not been 100% compliant with her diet, in addition to sneaking in candy and other treats. I understand that many physicians currently consider mesenteric lymphadenitis a non-disease and its symptoms unexplained. In your functional medicine point of view, what could be contributing to her recurring issues and what can be done from a practical standpoint to end her suffering? Okay, so just to let you know, I had this myself and lymphadenitis or lymphedemia is when you have an enlarged lymph nodes, the lymphatic system is essentially backed up. It's backed up for many different reasons. Certainly, I mean, this is huge. Gluten and dairy, they have to be eliminated from the diet. They really do. And then you have to look at the other food sensitivities. I would actually I would have her eat some of those foods, gluten, dairy, eggs, whatever you'd like, beans, nuts, you'd like, whatever you'd like, and then run the food sensitivity test. Actually show her like, hey, every time you're eating these, you're causing an immune-based reaction. The other thing is that when you have leaky gut, when you have intestinal permeability, which almost no doubt your daughter has, that's why I would run an organic acids test as well. 2 for your daughter. One's the organic acids test. The second is the food sensitivity test. Okay. So when you have these, you're actually spilling proteins, fats, fatty acids into the bloodstream. What's happening is then your lymph system is actually coming and cleaning all of that up as well. So poor fat digestion is a really dead giveaway for lymphedemia, as well as poor protein digestion, meaning like I used to get lymph node swelling when I ate a lot of meat or dairy. And then the lymph nodes right in the groin, so basically where the thighs connect to the hips, I would always feel 2 to 3 swollen lymph nodes right there. And then in my armpits, and then right on the corners of my jawbone. And then again, you have lymph nodes through your entire body. You can actually just type in lymphatic system online and click on images. The lymphatic system is amazing. Really studied it in depth. My education, I did an entire course on the lymphatic system, and I'm so happy that I did because I had a casual understanding of it. But once I studied the lymphatic system and how until you can get it to drain, you're going to be pretty sick. You're going to feel like sludge because that's basically you're pumping sludge through that lymphatic system. You have to get it to drain. So you need to cut out the gluten, the dairy, the heavy meats and fats for right now. Certainly go more plant-based. So typically, of course, we're recommending smoothies, green juices. What else are we recommending? A lot of water, proteolytic enzymes, which I talked about before, things like the chlorophyll You take those on an empty stomach in the morning before bed. Really, really great. And then once you do the organic acids test, you're going to be able to show your daughter, hey, you have this overgrowth of candida or you have this overgrowth of bacteria. We need to eliminate it. We're going to seal back up the gut wall and you're going to feel amazing. So there's always a reason why. Is it a non-disease? Well, I mean, I don't believe in disease in the first place. A disease is a collection of symptoms that we give a name and then we medicate. So the only reasons why it's not considered a disease is because there's no medication, right? So if there's a medication for it, we would call it a disease and then we would medicate for it. But since there's no medication, we don't call it a disease. Just like I believe it was before the 1960s, high cholesterol wasn't a disease, right? Because there was no medication for it. So we didn't really even bother testing for it. So it's funny how that works, right? Come up with a medication, we run a test for it. Oh, look at that. Now we can prescribe this medication. Same thing with blood pressure. They lowered the levels. Now more people are on blood pressure medication. It's all a game. You know, it really is. It's a sick game, but it's still a game. And that's why better not to be diagnosed with a disease because now you can treat this naturally. All right. Hopefully that helps. Jennifer's up next. Jennifer's question is quite long, so I'm going to give you the cliff notes. Jennifer's asking, hi, Dr. Ball. My name is Jennifer, and through divine intervention, I found you. In July, I had a week off of work, so I completed the 7-day detox. I never experienced a detox before, so safe to say I had no idea what I was getting into. First off, I came to very quickly realize that a large part of my daily routine is thinking, planning, shopping, preparing, and eating food. When you don't eat for the first 2 days, you have free time that you don't know you would have. So she goes on to understand, more about her body and her thinking. She works in a salon with a lot of chemicals. She started to feel some of those chemicals come out through the first 3 or 4 days. By day 5, it was like a dark cloud was lifted. She felt amazing. Each day became better and better on the Dr. Ball detox. She lost somewhere around 5 to 7 pounds. She continued with the maintenance plan, doing the daily nutritional support. Plans on doing another 7-day detox in a month. First questions regarding her daughter. When she was 7 or 8, she showed me a rash on her hands that came about with any form of water. She got these white raised bumps between her fingers. And her second question is regarding the weight loss blood test. I have been experiencing a steady decline in sex drive, and for many years, virtually no sex drive at all. What would that specific test measure my hormone level to see what's wrong? Thank you for your time. I look forward to your advice. I tried attaching the photos of my daughter's hands, but it won't attach. Okay, so Jennifer, believe it or not, we actually answered this question before. And on show 624, I detailed the answer and explanation to that. It's actually called aquagenia or aquagenic urticaria. And so check out that show. That will help out your daughter. And then the weight loss test, absolutely. It will look at why you may have lower sex drive, lower libido. And the reason why you're able to ascertain that information is that you look at not just one number. So a lot of so-called integrative doctors, and I'm not talking down about integrative doctors, but they're called bioidentical doctors, all that, they're just looking at things in isolation. So they'll look at testosterone, and if your testosterone's low, you may experience lower libido. And I would totally agree, and I would say that doctor's correct. However, testosterone doesn't work in isolation. It's a push-pull. It works in conjunction and relation to cortisol. So we want to actually look at cortisol and we want to look at thyroid. And so, here's what we do. We look at estrogen and progesterone, and we look at testosterone, and we look at DHEA. We look at the 4 levels of cortisol throughout the day. That's all saliva. Really, really easy. And then with just literally poking your finger and taking a few blood drops for the thyroid, we're going to look at your T4, your T3. So we're going to actually look to see if your thyroid, not only is it producing enough, but is it actually getting into the cell? So we're going to look at free T4, we're going to look at TSH, T3, and we're also going to look at TPO, the antibodies that might be causing Hashimoto's or an autoimmune-based response. After that, we're going to look at blood sugar, so things like that might be affected with insulin, PCOS. So it's an amazing test, and that's the right one to do. So it's called a weight loss test, but it's also called the thyroid adrenal hormone test. I'm going to link that up today in the show notes. Simply go to stephencabral.com/729. That is an amazing test. It's part of my Big 5. If you haven't checked out my Big 5, go to stephencabral.com/718. The Big 5 are the top 5 lab tests I recommend that everyone run. Of course, there's a cost to it, so I know not everyone's going to be able to run that. But in a perfect world, right? A perfect world, an ideal world, a utopia, everyone would run these 5 labs once a year. So I hope that I was able to answer your question there, Jennifer, and thank you so much for writing in. So next up, and probably last up today, depending on how long-winded I am with the answer, is John. John's writing in, Hi, Stephen. I was recently introduced to your podcast from the Elite Man podcast. Was impressed with your diverse knowledge. I spent all day listening to your podcast and will continue to listen to your great advice. To cut straight to the point, I had blood tests done 6 months ago, which showed very low testosterone and very high estrogen. After scans confirmed there were no problems with my pituitary, I was put on specific drugs to help lower estrogen dominance. So I'm not going to go through those today because, again, I don't like to talk pharmaceuticals and I don't like to talk negatively about them. But you can read about those drugs at stephencabral.com/729 today under John's question. So it's been off now the drugs for 3 months. Felt very little benefit from them in the first place. Really low libido, which actually got worse. Came off trying to restore hormones naturally. Stressful job, long hours, suffering from insomnia. Cardio, weight training hard 6 days a week. Not eating well. Blood levels show low D and low zinc. Doctors did not think this was relevant. So let's see. You're a true asset to the healthcare profession, and we would be much better, much happier, healthy place if there were more people like you. Thank you so much. So, John, let's get into it because we can help you with this. I help guys with low testosterone all the time. Like literally, I do this all the time. I've helped Olympic athletes. I've helped professional athletes from the NFL, PGA. I've helped guys from right down the street, Harvard rowing team, to stay on scholarship when they're starting to feel fatigued. And this is really important. And of course, my practice is made up 90% of normal guys like me and you as well. So here's the thing. Your regular doctor has no idea about vitamins and minerals. Like that's the truth because they've never studied it in medical school and they don't do a lot of postdoctoral studies. So that's not their fault. It's not part of the system, right? So you can't blame a doctor for never having studied. But if you're low in vitamin D and you're low in zinc, you're low in selenium, you're low in vitamin C, you have a lower sperm count. You also have lower testosterone. This is clinically proven. It just means like your doctor just hasn't read the research. That's all. Because you need all of those things to actually make hormones and make testosterone. But the more interesting thing about your case is that, you believe it or not, the pathway is there. Your conversion is off, right? Because again, and doctors don't know this either because they don't study endocrinology that in depth. The only reason I studied it this in depth is because one, I'm obsessed. So that's one. But two is that this is how I got well, right? Because I had issues with low hormones and then higher cortisol and then a crash in cortisol, which led to Addison's disease. And then I had flat hormones across the board, which was low DHEA, low testosterone, low progesterone, low cortisol with actually normal estrogen, which was terrible, right? Because this is not what you want. So what's happening is testosterone comes before estrogen, never before. You don't get estrogen without flowing through testosterone, okay? So what I'm trying to say is that your conversion is too high to estrogen. Now, it's too high most likely because of your long hours, your insomnia, you're working out too hard, all of those things, right? And there's probably toxicities inside the body. So we just recommended a lab test to our friend Jennifer right before you. And it's the same lab test I would recommend to you. Because if you have low thyroid, you're also most likely low testosterone. Let's get that test done for you. Okay, I would recommend the same thing. It's called the Thyroid Adrenal Hormone Panel. I can't recommend that enough. And it would most likely also run the hair tissue mineral analysis to look at heavy metal overload as well as stress-based patterns. Great place to start. Now, if you get bloating, if you have digestive issues, I recommend adding the organic acids test on top of those too. Why would I recommend that? Because your body's not going to be able to absorb things like zinc and magnesium, which you need to calm the central nervous system and rejuvenate the body, as well as build testosterone and not convert to estrogen if you have gut-based issues. So for me, it would go thyroid adrenal hormone test first. Then it would go toss up between organic acids test and hair tissue mineral analysis. If you can run both, run both. If you can just do one of those, then you'll pick the one that you feel is most pertinent to you. In the meantime, I would start with some zinc, of course. Do the test first, then start with some zinc. How much zinc? Well, again, can't give personal recommendations over a podcast, but most guys are fine with 15 to 30 milligrams per day at dinner. I would start by using more of either the full spectrum vitamin C or the alkalizing vitamin C. If you're really low, you might want to just use a teaspoon or half a teaspoon twice a day of the alkalizing vitamin C. That will get you up to a good 5 grams a day. And then without a doubt, use the daily nutritional support powder to make sure you're getting all of your other nutrients because you can't just take those individually. You need to be taking a good activated multivitamin or the daily nutritional support, which has everything all in one. The last thing I would add is a product called Adrenal Soothe. 2 with breakfast, 2 with dinner. That's going to help calm that central nervous system and our deep sleep protocol before bed. I just gave you a lot right there, but that's just based on symptoms. I'm not, again, I can't give you personal recommendations, but if you just want to say, hey, what would you do based on my symptoms? That's what I would do. Rewind it listen to that again. Hopefully that helps. Thank you, John, so much for writing in. I appreciate everyone today tuning into the Cabral concept. As always, if this show was able to help anyone else that you know, feel free to share this show with them. Thank you so much. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.